Local media in Palestine denounced that Israeli bombing killed 16 people in Rafah. In China, the government is highly concerned about the escalating tensions between Pakistan and Iran and called on the two sides to exercise calm and restraint. In France, heavy snowfall have hit the north of the country, causing dozens of kilometers of traffic jams on several roads in the area. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Ecuador, a new police and military intervention is being carried out today in the regional prison of the city of Guayaquil, where hundreds of agents have entered the prison. According to official information, the new operation is aimed at seizing prohibited objects inside the penitentiary. However, local media speculate that the uniformed officials are trying to gather information related to the latest violent events in that coastal city, including the murder of prosecutor Cesar Suarez. The magistrate was handling, among other cases, charges of terrorism against 11 criminals who attacked last week the TC television channel and was shot this Wednesday in the town of Los Ceibos in that city of the province of Guayas. In this context, it was informed that during this week, the Army and the police will continue to be deployed throughout the national territory. In Ecuador, prosecutor Cesar Suarez was assassinated by hired killers in the north of the Guayaquil city this Thursday. The incident occurred on Bombero Avenue in the area of Rodriguez Bonin at 1:30 p.m. local time. The car in which the official was in was intercepted by hired assassins. According to preliminary information from the authorities, Cesar Suarez was on his way to the Alban Borjas Judicial Unit for a hearing. The prosecutor was leading investigations on hospital corruption in the Ecuadorian Social Security Institute and in the Police Social Security Institute, both related to drug trafficking cases. Recently, he was also leading the case of terrorism registered in TC television channel. In this context, Ecuador's Attorney General Diana Salazar stated that the murder of prosecutor Cesar Suarez would not stop the agency's fight against organized crime.
After the murder of our colleague Cesar Suarez, prosecutor of the National Specialized Unit of Investigations Against Transnational Organized Crimes in Guayas, I will be emphatic. Organized crime groups, criminals, and terrorists will not stop our commitment with the Ecuadorian society. We will continue with more strength and commitment. We must be clear that this atrocious fact brings with it a message for the work we are doing for justice in Ecuador.
In Guatemala, the Constitutional Court ordered on Thursday the repetition of the election of the Congressional Board of Directors due to irregularities in the legislature provisions. The organization explained the need to repeat the election of the Board of Directors because of the inclusion of independent deputies in the proposed list and the participation of deputies who aren't part of legislative blocs. Therefore, on the basis of the principles of legality and constitutional supremacy, the Constitutional Court ordered the rerun of the elections. In this sense, it emphasized that the swearing-in of Bernardo Arevalo and Karine Herrera as President and Vice President of the Republic is not affected. In the United Kingdom, the Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, denounced before the International Maritime Organization that the unilateral coercive measures and the blockade on Venezuelan vessels affect international trade. The Venezuelan Executive Vice President met in London with the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, Arsenio Domínguez Velasco, where she stated that 39 vessels of the state-owned Petróleos de Venezuela and 30 of international trade are illegitimately sanctioned. Rodriguez pointed out that this is the fourth country in the world in terms of the number of sanctioned vessels.
Y particularmente como As Venezuela, I express our concern that the entire fleet of ships and vessels that PDVSA has are illegitimately sanctioned. They are blockaded. Not only 39 PDVSA vessels, but also 30 international trade vessels that have been sanctioned. As you know, within this terrible policy of economic aggression against Venezuela, we are the fourth country with the highest number of blockade ships in the world. It is really an embarrassing situation, and that's why we insist. President Nicolás Maduro, with great courage, with great firmness, calling for the cessation of this illegal and illegitimate blockade that has become a true economic genocide against the Venezuelan people.
Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez explained the sanctions recognized by the United Nations system and expressed her concern about the global climate emergency.
The international organizations are really helpless in the face of a blockade which violates international law, because the only sanctions recognized by the United Nations systems are the sanctions issued by the Security Council. From a country unilaterally, extraterritorially, obviously does not exist within the framework of the law and the regulations, but we talk. We express our concern about this situation. Similarly, a very important issue that has to do with the global climate emergency, as Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called it. It is not longer an issue of climate crisis. We are in a real climate emergency.
Venezuela's Executive Vice President also analyzes the essential United Nations issues addressed in the meeting, such as the paralysis of transportation and trade in the Panama Canal and the impact on the economy.
The whole issue of greenhouse gas emissions from international shipping is a very essential issue that this organization is addressing. We are talking about something that affects us in particular, that has to do with the transport and trade that goes through the Panama Canal. You know that impacted by the effect of the El Niño, transportation through the Panama Canal has been reduced practically by 30%.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. On Thursday, Palestinian authorities reported that Israeli airstrikes targeted civilians in Rafah. In this sense, local media highlighted that the so-called safe zone designated by Israel was the site where the Israeli occupation army killed 16 people, including 3 children and 7-month pregnant woman, who were sheltering in a house. On the other hand, the Palestinian Abu Khaled, a relative of those killed in the Rafah attack, stated that the death belonged to the Samili and Kulab families, stressing that they were displaced from their homes in the Gaza City to the Burej refugee camp in Khan Yunis and recently arrived in Rafah because they thought it was a safer place. The Rafah border crossing between Egypt and Gaza opens to let a small amount of desperately needed aid flow to Palestinians running short of food, medicine and water in the territory. Our teleSUR correspondent Noor Harassen with the details.
In the latest medicine exchange deal, Egypt opened the Rafah border, allowing dozens of humanitarian aid trucks to enter the Gaza Strip, including 4 trucks loaded with medicine from Qatar, and this comes after the exchange deal. The Qatari French brokered exchange deal. Musa Abu Marzouk, who was a leader in Hamas, said in a statement on social media today that this medicine will be distributed on 4 main hospitals in Gaza, starting from the Ashifa Hospital in northern Gaza, the Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital in middle Gaza, the Al-Nasir Hospital in Khan Yunis, and a small amount will go here in Rafah to the Abu Yusuf al-Najjar Hospital in a way to lift the struggle on the people, the patients and the injured who did not manage to find their medicine over the past months here in Gaza. On the other hand, the Israeli warplanes continue their attacks on the heart of the city of Khan Yunis, and we are talking about the Al-Nasser complex, where we are talking about hundreds of people, hundreds of families that are residing inside the hospital. Also, a shell hit the Jordanian hospital that is also very close to the Al-Nasser hospital. Jordan from itself condemned this Israeli attack, but this is not the first time actually Israel attack and storm into hospital. This happened before in northern Gaza that led to the closure of 23 hospitals in Gaza since the 7th of October. Noor Harazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
On Thursday, local media in Palestine denounced that a young man was killed by Israeli forces during an attack on a refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. In turn, the Palestinian authorities also stressed that a large contingent of Israeli occupation army carried out a military incursion in Tulkarem for the second consecutive day. In this context, the Palestinian Ministry of Health confirmed that Mohammad Faisal Dawas, 28 years old, died after being shot by an Israeli sniper in the North Shams camp. In addition, the Zionist forces also blew up a house and destroyed infrastructure with bulldozers. On the other hand, Palestinian authorities added that at least 8 Palestinians were wounded by Israeli bullets in Al-Mari refugee camp south of Ramallah. Projections by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, indicate that high levels of malnutrition could affect 10,000 children in Gaza Strip in the next few weeks. In a statement, the agency said that in the absence of food and water, cases of wasting, the most lethal form of malnutrition, could increase by almost 30% compared to the levels prior to October 7th. They highlighted that Gaza is home to some 335,000 particularly vulnerable children under the age of 5 who face serious obstacles to accessing less than 2 liters of water a day as a result of the blockade perpetrated by Israel. According to the latest report of the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, food insecurity is extremely severe in Gaza, affecting 2.2 million inhabitants. The government of Iran on Thursday condemned an attack by Pakistan on Iranian territory that left at least 7 people dead in the southeastern province of Sistan and Baluchistan. In this sense, Iranian local sources reported several explosions in different areas around the southeastern city of Saravan on the border with Pakistan. The deputy governor of the province, Alisera Marhamati, said 7 non-Iranian citizens, including 3 women and 4 children, were killed in the attack. In this regard, the spokesman of the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Nasser Kanani, condemned the attack and confirmed the charge that FTS of Pakistan has been informed of Iran's rejection, and added that he requested for a response for the government of Islamabad. China on Thursday said it was highly concerned about the escalating tensions between Pakistan and Iran and called on the two sides to exercise calm and restraint.
Iran and Pakistan are close neighbors, and both are also friendly countries to China and countries with significant influence. China sincerely hopes that both sides can exercise calm and restraint and avoid escalation of tension. We're also willing to play a constructive role in de-escalating the situation if they need it.
On Thursday, the Turkish government assured its willingness to help lower tensions between Iran and Pakistan. In this regard, during a joint press conference in Jordan with its Jordanian counterpart, Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan reiterated Ankara's willingness to achieve calm as soon as possible.
We followed the developments between Pakistan and Iran with concern. This morning, I had the opportunity to speak with the foreign ministers of both countries. They explained their positions and gave the reason for their actions. We, as Turkey, recommended that no further problems escalate and that calm be achieved as soon as possible. The sides said They both did not want to see the events spread further, and they took them under control. I hope things stay here and these events will not escalate between the two countries. In the meantime, as Turkey, we will continue to do whatever we can to de-escalate the tension between Pakistan and Iran, and let me also express that we are ready.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. In the United States, more than 10 million people are under alert due to a winter storm. Weather officials reported that a second winter storm is advancing into the Rocky Mountains, and warnings have been issued in Colorado of avalanche danger due to heavy snowfall and high winds that could reach 120 kilometers per hour. They also predicted a wind chill of 31 degrees below zero in southeastern North Dakota, 26 below zero in Chicago, and 6 below zero in Tampa. For the first time in more than 700 days in New York, Washington, D.C., and other cities in the Northeast has had snowfall with an accumulation of more than 2.5 centimeters. In France, heavy snowfall have hit the north of the country, causing dozens of kilometers of traffic jams on several roads in the area. Meteorological services declared an orange alert in 21 departments for rain and snow, while snowfall is expected to advance to other localities of the territory. The authorities have imposed traffic restrictions and are advising citizens in Paris to return home earlier. While in the Normandy and the France regions, school transport has been suspended and the circulation of trucks has been banned due to snowfall forecasts. On Wednesday, lawmakers in the United Kingdom passed a bill to deport immigrants to Rwanda. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's new bill was approved with 320 votes in favor and 276 against, after the Supreme Court rejected the original initiative in November. A total of 60 conservative members of the parliament supported amendments to the new bill, one of which will allow it to circumvent orders from the European Court of Human Rights. Under the government's initiative, immigrants who enter British soil illegally could be deported to Rwanda. Human rights groups have criticized the plan as inhuman and unworkable. It should be noted that after being challenged in British courts, the UK Supreme Court ruled that in November that the policy was illegal because Rwanda isn't a safe country for refugees. Thousands of public sector workers in Northern Ireland walked off the job on Thursday in what a union leader said could be the province's biggest strike ever. Meanwhile, the unions assured that this coordinated day of action is expected to wreak damage on public services. It should be noted that these strikes come in the midst of a prolonged political crisis that has left the British province without self-government for almost 2 years. According to organizers, some 16 unions representing teachers, civil servants, nurses, and transport workers are expected to join the strike and rallies. In this regard, Union Chief Owen Brady noted that many of these workers have gone without pay rises for 3 years despite the cost of living crisis, and said that some 170,000 unionized public sector workers would stop work to demand the release of withheld funds for pay rises. On Thursday, during a press conference, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov reiterated that his nation's military operations in Ukraine will have a successful conclusion for Moscow, and assured that the Western Bloc that there is no possible way to defeat its military forces.
They should have no hope that Russia could be defeated in any way. This has already been said many times. Those who fail to learn history lessons, and there are many of them in the West, and geography too. Of course, they know little of it. They can fantasize about this.
In this regard, the Russian foreign minister also pointed out that the attacks by London and Washington in Yemen are a response to the selfish interest of NATO and its allies.
The more the Americans and British bomb Yemen, the less the Houthis want to talk. But this is the style of our Anglo-Saxon colleagues. It is important for them to muddy the words everywhere and then see how they can play out some combination from across the English Channel, from across the Atlantic Ocean that will promote the selfish interests of London and Washington.
Cuban Vice President Salvador Valdez Mesa arrived Thursday in Uganda to attend the 19th Summit of the Non-Aligned Movement, NAM, and the 3rd South Summit of the Group of the 77 and China. The head of state stressed on the social network X that it is an honor to represent the Caribbean nation in both events and added that in the second of them, Cuba will hand over the Uganda the pro tempore presidency of the G77. Since its incorporation in 1971, Cuba has played an active role in the G77 and China, mainly in the promotion of the South-South cooperation as a way for equitable development among countries. The NAM meeting began on the 16th with preparatory conferences for the meeting of the heads of state and government and a call for unity and a greater cooperation among the member nations. The NAM is made up of 120 countries, 53 from Africa, 39 from Asia, 26 from Latin America and the Caribbean, and 2 from Europe, while 17 nations have observers status. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.